had to get the air conditioning fixed today.
Oh, no.
It was on the fritz a little bit, but it's working fine now. So thankful for that.
Very good. Yes, me too.
Yes.
So Barry and I often hear people that feel emotionally out of balance. They don't know how to regulate themselves as they're getting to know somebody and starting to care about them and getting so carried away, and people who say they wear their heart on their sleeve, and it's just can turn into such a mess. And so how can you pace yourself to keep yourself emotionally balanced while you're dating? Even in relationships too, but mostly we talk about dating when we're here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Big subject, especially when our heart's involved. That's when we get even more a dither and verklempt, as Mike Myers used to say.
Yes, it's a good Yiddish word. Yes, absolutely.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
So welcome to the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcasts, and #1 internet singles top network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
I think people can get emotionally dysregulated because of the heat too, right? Especially when you said your air conditioner broke for a bit. Yuck.
Yeah. But speaking to that, the challenge is, and we'll talk more about as we go into the episode, but really, I've experienced it myself, so I know what it's like, and so do my clients, about how this the chemistry can override everything else. It's like the person's attractive, they get so excited, and it's almost like we don't take stock of what's happening inside of ourselves, which is why it's very hard to keep balance when you can't even feel how you're feeling, sort of thing. So, yeah, we'll definitely get into that in this episode.
One of the other things I hear is we have so many things in common. Oh my gosh. And one of the really important things for females, because we like being in groups, it's safety in numbers. It's why I tease that we go to the bathroom together. So connection, that feeling of connected, is really important to us. And one of the things that's come up recently is this me or not me? When I'm talking to you and listening to you, do you do things that I like or don't like? And it was interesting because Alison Armstrong brought that up recently. She says, a sneeze is a not me. You need to get it out of your body. And I thought that was really a great physical way to look at when we go, yeah, I don't like that thing that you said, or I wouldn't like doing the thing that you say you do. And so, but if they keep saying all these things, oh, I like all those same things, often still kind of surface level, we start feeling connected, which is what gets our emotional balance out of whack. Because we don't have a good foundation of really knowing all the important things, which you can't learn right away. And so that's one of the definite regulating things, is to be really clear about what it is you need and want from another person and what you're willing to give, and to make sure that is a good connection.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I've been working on recently, because of my focus on working with long-term singles, is there's this piece of the puzzle for me that's so important, is about our own emotional relationship with ourselves. And it's true anywhere in life. It's like really having that sense of self that we can navigate through to then see how we interact with everything else in the world. Mm-hmm. And so when we're on dates, oftentimes, especially somebody's just come out of a breakup, and I just did a post about it this morning, how we get so distraught after a breakup, we must want to look for somebody else to fill up that gap inside of ourselves, which is not healthy emotionally. Let's say up front. But we think that's the solution because we think that it's hard to be alone. So we just find someone else to glom onto, and it's messy for a start because that person's not designed to carry your load anyway. But secondly, you haven't spent any time with yourself. You haven't done the healing work. And so to keep your emotional balance in dating means you need to have an emotional balance in your life, period. And that's where I think I'm finding most of my work's coming up with my clients, because before they even get to the dating, the gates to dating, so to speak, it's like before you can get there, let's focus on your emotional well-being, your emotional support, your emotional health, so you can get better in dating. I had a meme I shared last week about this, about you can eat all the kale and do all the yoga and everything else, but you haven't done the emotional work inside, you're not healthy. And so that's why it's important to talk about emotional balance in this conversation, because regardless of your emotional status, your relationship status, your emotional balance is key.
So often what happens is we think, oh yeah, that was bad. That was not me. So I don't want this not me thing anymore. But then we don't really know what is me. We
Mhm.
don't take stock in that. So we keep going, okay, I know what I don't want. So I'm going to keep paying attention. I don't want that, which we talked about with the reticular activator system, that we're going to now notice even more this
Yeah.
thing that we don't want. And we're going to let things walk by us that are the things that we do want, but we're not clear about that. So, yes, getting really clear about who you are and what keeps you in balance. And I hear all the time, you do too. People say, I'm working on myself. And I go, that is such a good idea. Tell me what you're doing. And they don't really have a plan, and they don't really know what to do about them. And so that's what you and I do, that we start back at the basics. How do you get your own self regulated and keep yourself regulated? So then you can be so clear about what's me and not me when you're talking to other people, with the potential of even friends and colleagues, and certainly in the romantic world, because that is when the chemistry just wants to take over, and we're like, oh yeah, the fog sets in and we can't think clearly at all.
Yeah. It's so easy to be driven by the external stimulus and the external attraction that keeps us going. And I know it's like, we're just cruising on your life, things everything's going fine, and suddenly go, wow, look at that person. It's so amazing, so exciting, so wonderful. And suddenly our life is so much better because they are a bit ahead of us. The thing is, and this is the dance I've been watching lately, is I'm noticing a lot of attractive women out there being single. I notice that a lot. I notice how my internal state changes because I'm enjoying watching them out in the world. But I'm also clear that I'm not going to do anything about meeting them because they're not somebody I want to be with. I can tell that automatically. It's almost that um, differentiation between presumptive, like what's going to happen, and what I know will happen. So learning to navigate through that way, which is part of the discernment about really knowing where you want to put your energy in the first place, is a good part of this conversation as well.
It's so interesting that you said that, because I've gotten some new male clients recently, and they tell me, is this weird? I can kind of tell when she walks in the room. Does she seem confident? Does she seem comfortable in her body? Do I really want to go talk to her? And yes, you wonderful Y chromosomes will say, is she appealing looking? Because that is very important. It was the manufacturer installation person put that in you. And there's this other layer of, does she seem like somebody I want to go spend time talking to her? And
Yeah.
you can make, they've told me 10 seconds, her presence. I mean, it's not always accurate. You have to go talk to them and see. But there is such a presence that we women, in our self-confident way, that we've done our work, our internal work, that you guys are so drawn to. And you're even drawn to it when we might not be your person, but we're really fun to talk to, and we're relaxed, and you don't feel threatened at all. And you might go, oh my God, I have the friend that you have to meet, because we're so not each other's people, but you would like each other. And I so admire that you men say that out loud. And women, I say that to women, they're like, not. I go, I've had 3 men in a row, and now 4, lovely Barry Selby, who says, yes, we can tell. So
Yeah.
that's why another reason why we need to work on ourselves, to get our self-confidence and our value and our worth honed with whatever it is that's inside of us, with our foibles and our idiosyncrasies and what we think is charming. I want somebody else to think is charming about me, or they're not my person. And I'm very confident about it. And men really do recognize that. I love that you said that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation with a woman yesterday I met at the coffee shop I was at. And she's very attractive and she's very nice. But I noticed right up front, that's one of my radar things, like men have it too. Wedding ring finger on, had a wedding ring on it. And we're talking about stuff, and we had a great conversation. And she said, her baby's at home. It's like I'm enjoying who she is. I had no designs on her whatsoever because I knew ahead of time she was busy with a relationship she was already fully committed to. Great. But someone say this. I remember doing this a long time ago, and it still happens to a degree. But what I noticed, I always used to curse this because when I was younger, I always seemed to find I was attracted to women who were married, and it took me a while to figure out why. Because what I realized was the women who were married had a sense of confidence, a sort of self-respect, because they were happily married. I mean, I'm talking about a healthy relationship, first of all. Let's be clear about that. What I noticed, though, is how they carried themselves, what they presented, who they were, was very attractive because they were in love. They were shining brightly. They were in that joyful place as well. And it took me a while to figure that one out, because I was like, why is it every time I go to meet a woman I'm attracted to her, she's not available, And so what I get clearly, so for ladies who are single out there, just to understand, is when you understand what it's like when a woman's in a relationship, how she feels whole, fully supportive of self and caring and in love, you can do that when you're single too. So if you
Mhm.
start with yourself first in your own life and doing the work to become more balanced in your own emotional state, you become more attractive.
And that is such truth with exclamation points and bolded, and we could put it on a billboard and we'd get lots of eye rolling about that.
Yep.
And it's for everybody. And it is the thing that both sides, men and women, say that they're so attracted to people that have genuine self-confidence about themselves, that they really know who they are, they know what they're about, they can tell you, this is what turns me on, this is the kind of things that excite me in my life, and these are the kinds of things that don't work for me. I respect that people do that, but they don't get to be close to me. Okay. And it's such a comfortable place to be, to go, oh, there's not going to be landmines. There's not the opportunity to have to guess. And what happens then is, because those people that are in those really happy relationships, when upset and upheaval happen, because that's what happens between us human beings, they have this great foundation to go, oh yeah, but we're still this great unit. We're still in this boat together. And maybe the ocean's whooshing over us, but we're going to figure this out together. And we're going to say we're against the problem and not against each other. And I think a lot of the insecurity, at least for me, when I felt that way, until I got to my 40s and said, oh, there's a different way to feel. I was so defensive. I defended me a lot. I felt I had to defend me a lot over things that turned out not even some of it was the truth. But I was really defensive of how people looked at me or spoke to me. And the more I figured out who I was, and if they didn't like it, I was like, well, fine, because I'm not going to like everything about everybody else. But I don't think they're necessarily a bad person. And I thought they were saying I was a bad person. And when I went, I'm not. I'm still a work in progress, but I'm not a bad person. So whatever they say, I go, oh, yeah, we're just not going to work for each other. It was so freeing. Oh, my gosh.
It's so simple when we start seeing the truth. I mean, I'm being silly that way. But the thing is, back to we talking about the 4 agreements about, don't take it personally. It's that level of understanding that we are so interactive with other people in a way. It's almost like we have to get approval from other people to feel okay, which is where emotional imbalance happens. Because if that person doesn't think we're good, we don't feel good. It's like, hang a second, that's the wrong way around. We should feel good for ourselves regardless of anybody else, and they can notice that or not, up to them. But when we use other people as our reference point of who we are, we're in a very bad, basically in a downward spiral. It doesn't go anywhere fast. So really it is about looking in the mirror, have a relationship with yourself, where the real work is and where the real support system is.
And as you said, when we say the words, and I will say this out loud to clients, when I say the words, don't they sound so simple and easy? And I get that the implementation is hard. I have done it. I know in the middle of them, like, this is hard work. And the other side is so worth it. It's so rewarding to not let the world, the people, the whatever the situations, to keep dysregulating you. And if you're that kind of a person already, that would be a really important place to start, because that's going to cause you to not, if you work on that, then you're not going to get so dysregulated when you try to be romantic with somebody and get to know them on a more personal level. Because if you already have your ballast intact, I said I had this buoy that was always bopping along the ocean, and it would bob around depending on what stuff came on. And then when my husband died, suddenly it got submerged. I could picture it. And it slowly came up, but it was listing for a while. And for my circumstances and all the things that surrounded that, I said, yeah, that's kind of normal. I think I accept that that's a really normal place to be for my poor buoy. And eventually, after it took about 4 years because of all the circumstances, it got put upright, and it's been bouncing along the ocean again, and it bobs around, but it always has that ballast because I learned how to do this so long ago. And boy, it is such a gift to give yourself, to take the time to really sit with somebody and work on this, because I couldn't have done it by myself. Barry talks about all the things he's been through, and we continue to learn. And it's too much to expect of yourself to do it on your own. It's impossible, and it will make you just feel more discouraged, I think.
It's interesting. I was doing this recently with somebody because, I've been on this journey now for over 40 years of personal development and seminars, trainings, teaching, learnings, and everything else too. So I haven't, quote, unfair advantage in terms of I've done enough work, been through enough evolutionary experiences. I'll put it that way. One of my friends says, like, when stuff happens to you that's negative or positive, either way, just say, what if it's an interesting evolutionary experience? I think it's about the show before, because what happens is how we interpret it is really important. But I haven't been on this journey for so long. I have a lot of tools at my disposal and reflexive things now. When something happens, I sort of, part of me goes, oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that versus, I shouldn't have done that and I'm going to be all that way. And so, and just be transparent, sometimes the reaction shows up quicker than the responsibility does, just to be clear. Not perfect. But it gives me an advantage in some ways that some people I watch out there, and I see how almost predictably they react to things because they haven't done their own work. Men and women, it's not about one side or the other. And it's distressing, because I almost wish I could say, can I just give you part of my brain and like take it on so you can understand what you're doing to yourself? But of course I can't do that. Same thing with clients. I can't force a client to work with me. It's like they have to choose it. And so it's really, I guess the other part of it is I hold the high watch for people, because I know I can't fix them unless they want to come to work with me, and I can't fix them anyway, so they fix themselves. But the understanding is that my position is to really be a witness to what's happening, and do my best not to judge what's happening, because I can't control it,
Boy, not judging ourselves or other people, having grace about all that. Because yes, you and I talk about, there's still stuff that comes up that gets us dysregulated. And the thing that is my goal, and I heard it from this woman that had turned 100, and she said, I just want to get the lesson sooner. I know there's still lessons to learn. I just don't want it to drag on so long. And I've gotten pretty good at having it come sooner. Just go, here's the thing. What do I need to do to get through the thing? And what's going to be, and what is going to be the gift on the other side? Boy, it does take a little while to get there for sure. But it has always turned out that way. If that's what I'm looking for, eventually I will say, okay, not happy that it happened. And this is why. I see what I learned. I see what I got to provide for other people. And that's the thing that keeps my buoy from floating on the ocean. Because, there's times you think, oh, please, I've already learned this, or why do I have to learn this? Or this is just too hard. Yep. And it's part of the human experience. And but I have to tell you, to get to the other side, truly every time has been so rewarding. I have to keep saying that out loud to myself and my clients.
I often say to myself, oftentimes, it's like, I'd like to receive this lesson with grace, because sometimes the lessons come with a sledgehammer. It's not fun.
I'm going to lay on the floor like the 2-year-old, kicking their feet and having a tantrum. No, I don't want to do that. It's too hard.
Yeah.
So I allow myself 10 minutes. I set a timer and I can complain for 10 minutes.
There you go. That works.
So in your life in general, learning an emotional balance, what would that give you? How would that serve you in every way? In traffic, in lines, when you sit on hold with AI going representative forever. I mean, really, all the places in our life, especially nowadays, just learning this skill. And especially when your heart's involved, which makes us feel even more tender, even more vulnerable, even more emotional. We're going to be so much more emotional then. To already have this skill to keep yourself regulated. You go, but how is that romantic? I said, well, it's certainly not romantic to get your heart broken over and over. So if you learn this skill, you can get through it without getting knocked down or devastated or hating the opposite sex or hating yourself and thinking everybody's stupid, including you. That's not a good way to go through it. And when you figure out how to keep them more emotionally balanced, that doesn't happen. It's kind of amazing, or it doesn't last very long. It's shorter. Yeah.
I want to add to that after the break, because I was going to take a break in a moment. So I'm going to see about the idea for afterwards.
Okay, you'll put a pin in it, as they say, right?
Yes, indeed.
Well, yes, we are going to take a pause for a commercial break for our wonderful station, the new streamingnetwork.com, that puts out our episodes and our podcasts. But if any of this is landing with you, or like, oh my gosh, I just had a breakup, or gosh, I'm afraid to date because I'm feeling so emotional and concerned about getting carried away, I'd be happy to talk to you. So if you go to my website, which is theperfectday.com, and scroll to the middle, there's a What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. Click on that. 8 brief questions about what's bothering you now, what would you like to be different later, so that I can just have some ideas when we talk, and then schedule a free complimentary conversation with me through my calendar, and we'd be happy to work with you on the phone or on Zoom. And I promise you will leave with a couple of tools, whether or not we ever decide to work together. and you can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would people reach you, Barry?
Well, similar to Christine, I have a way you can get in touch with me as well. So my website is my name, which is barryselby.com. And at the top of the homepage of my site is a button you click on, which is let's have a conversation, let's have a chat. Click on that, takes you to my calendar, plus also a questionnaire. I think it's about 13 questions on the questionnaire. It's gotten more detailed. That will then get a calendar booking. So then we get scheduled a Zoom chat between you and me. If it can't be on Zoom, we'll do it by phone, but Zoom's preferable because I can see the person I'm talking to, which is much more preferable. And like Christine, I make sure that I give you value no matter what happens in the conversation. If you want to work together or not, I'll make sure you walk away with something you can use in your life that really gives you a next step you can take. So you're definitely worth doing that, even for that alone. And if you want to send me an email, you can send me one at barry@barryselby.com, and we'll tell you about all the rest of our stuff at the end of the show.
The stuff. So we'll be back to talk more about how to keep your emotional balance while you're dating. Back in a couple minutes, or 30 seconds, I think.
Yes, see you in a moment.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're talking about, I think it can be kind of a sensitive subject, keeping your emotional balance in dating and not getting carried away before they are worthy and you know that they're safe. I mean, both sides want to know that the other person is safe for them to reveal their real self with and to be vulnerable with. And people that I did in the beginning when I was in my 20s, especially, I go, I'm a nice person. I'm sure they're nice. And I would just open everything up, and not everybody's going to be kind about that. And not everybody deserves that right away. They're just not even capable of, not even that they're a mean person. So I finally, in my 40s, started really learning how to regulate that. And I love teaching it because it's very freeing, because it's not that you get rid of everybody in your life. You just learn how close can they be. Gosh, I just love having dinner with that person and they talk all about their life and it's interesting, and they're not interested in mine, and I don't have them for that. I have lots of other people that are really interested in knowing about me, but I like where we go to dinner, and I like that we do it every couple of months because what they're doing is really fascinating. I would never do that in my life. And you could do that where you don't get all dysregulated about, well, why are they so not caring about me? Because they can't. I mean, it really is kind of fascinating when you go, oh, it can't happen? So I'm going to stop getting upset about something that can't happen. I said, it's like the color of their eyes. This is who they are. So if you realize that, like the Let Them book, this is who they are, how much do you want to have them in your life? It's just remarkable how simple that sounds and how hard it can be to put it in practice.
Well, especially with his family members, which is a whole other conversation. But the thing I must say about that, which I think is great, is that it's almost like you have categories of everybody's in. You also want to put like a color coding of all your friends. The ones you want to hang out with all the time, the ones you want to see once a month, and the ones in between. But I want to speak to the thing I put a pin in from before the break.
Yes.
Showing something about that emotional balance. I remember I know stories from friends of mine as well when I was younger, especially, who they said, like you have to be totally 100% committed to the relationship, be fully all in or nothing's worth doing, sort of thing. And the truth is that incorporates into it, and that's not necessarily verbally said, that basically means they're going to be emotionally naked, not emotionally balanced, but emotionally naked, like totally in it, fully committed, which means they're totally at the mercy of what happens in the partner, which oftentimes is a bad choice, oftentimes becomes messy, and oftentimes ends up bad breakup. So back to the point about emotional balance is that you can be fully immersed in a relationship, fully committed to the relationship, fully expressing and learning the other person, and be emotionally balanced at the same time. They aren't exclusive of each other, just to make that clear.
I think that's a really good point. And one of the things I had to come up with for myself when I just kept letting everybody just flood in is I came up with this thing that I call dating for friends. And I did concentric circles and what the minimum trait they had to have to even put their toe on the outside circle. And then those traits plus the next ones for them to be closer. And my heart was in the middle. And it's something that I share with my clients, and they love it because it gives you a chance to resort and be accepting of, oh, well, they really are like this. and I could do this with them, but I need to stop expecting and asking that they could do something more, because they just can't. It's
Yep.
not that they don't care. It's not that they're not a nice person. They're just not an empathetic person, or they're just not available a lot, or they're more introverted than you. Then if you say, oh, but what is a good thing about them? They could just be on a more outside circle, and I'm going to do this with them, and stop expecting them and getting mad at them for something they just truly can't do. It's so freeing.
It is the best pattern path to do. It is so crazy, but it's so simple, and it's true. And it is it's interesting, because I realize I do that myself automatically without thinking about those things. Just, oh, these become reflex, because, and that's the thing, you don't have to have a roadmap all the time. It's more about, it's like training wheels. Once you get used to it, it's easy to do. But I know there's certain people who I will cross paths with, and it's really like crossing paths and we're done. And then other friends of mine who I'll just like sit with and just listen to and talk to for hours. And I agree with you 100%. It's good to know who those people are in your life that fit in the boxes. Don't find the person who you can barely stand to spend 2 hours talking to. Now, if you want to say to have a challenge to work on your inner peace, maybe you want to try that. However, I don't recommend it. You have people in your life who are worth hanging out with and spend time with them, great. There are people who you really like to know about, but you don't want to spend much time with them, great as well. But it's knowing the discernment, and that is part of emotional balance, is having discernment about what you choose and what you want to have in your life, because you don't want. I say no one say don't want. It's not beneficial for you if you spend your time being emotionally harried, upset, imbalanced, knocked over, all the other crap that happens in emotional. It's things that aren't healthy. So emotional balance, it's a self-preservation tool, frankly, but recommend highly.
Yes, it's really a choice. And we often think, when you brought up family, that there's not a choice. There really is. There really is a choice of, okay, how much time do I really need to spend? Really, might be more than you'd like. And how can I do this so it doesn't upset me? What things could I not take personally? What subjects would I not bring up? What things could I stop expecting them to do or not do if I'm going to now put myself in their presence for an hour for some family thing? Okay, it's still a personal choice to keep depending on somebody else to keep you regulated. That's not somebody that's in your closest circle. It's unproductive. It won't help. I do have people that when I get dysregulated, I'm like, okay, I need the 10-minute check-in call. Could you do that soon? And we do that for each other. I mean, you really have to have that, but not the people that are capable of that. It'll just leave you more empty and upset and frustrated. And that doesn't keep you balanced at all. And it doesn't even give you energy to now go talk to the people who really are there ready to listen. So important. When we take responsibility for ourselves, oh my gosh, it's really quite an adult thing to do.
And it's interesting, the choices. I mean, for me, one of the ways I deal with that once in a while when I do get knocked off center is I'll remove myself from the situation. Just take a walk, go for a breath, just get my head clear. Because in that volatile moment, in that situation, so claustrophobic, I'm not able to do any function. I mean, the only tool I've gained that I'm really good at in the last few years is basically to shut up and not do anything. But as soon as I can, I excuse myself so I can go vent somewhere else and clears my head out, and really just sort out what I need to do and how I need to be, so I can come back in fresh and clean. And it is that idea, like, we're talking about when you get angry, count to 10. It's that simple idea about taking steps to hold where you are, step out so you can reset, and then come back in clean and more able to be kind and caring again.
Oh my gosh, taking responsibility for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. More of that in the world, please. It would be nice. It's that person's problem. Well, maybe you have something to do with it and you could do something about it. Really, if it's not a bear at the door, you have lots of choices about when you get dysregulated and too emotionally attached. So when we keep talking about the dating arena, going slowly with your emotions with another person and having a checklist of, what do I need to know about them and what do they need to know about me in order for me to say, I could care a one about them. And then what additional thing do I need to know about them and that I could now care a two? Instead of, oh my gosh, they're so cute and we have all these, we like Mel Brooks movies and Chinese food. We want to zoom to a 35, and you've skipped all the steps of, it's kind of lovely to get to know another person and have them get to know you, especially if it keeps moving forward. And it's really good to find out it's not going to move forward before you've gotten to a really high number, because then you're like, oh, it's okay. If I'm at a 3 and it turns out we're not each other's people, that's such a tiny place to go back to 0. Where if you're at a 35 and there's thing came up that you didn't want to or think to ask in the beginning, that is such a big fall. And people do that too often and then they give up. Okay, I'm never going to do that. Well, I think it's a good idea not to do that again, but never to date again or to look for a romantic partner. That's a pretty drastic, also unproductive decision, I think.
Yeah, it's the traps you fall into. And it's interesting because I would suggest that most of us have that one person who's always the one that triggers us, who is the one that so easily does it. It's almost like they have the secret key to get into our emotional distress. And the homework I recommend, and this is the thing I talked about earlier, is about how do you learn that what they're actually accessing is something you have dominion over. Because the trap we fall into, as I said earlier in the conversation, about how we sometimes feel we're at the mercy of somebody else's actions. Okay, let me reframe it this way. Especially because of the way we're raised and our family upbringing, is the people who approach us in our lives who replicate the way that we were treated in our family tend to have an easy way in to manipulate and mess with our emotional state. Once we discover that that's a open window we didn't close, we can do something about closing it and resetting it. The challenge is first step is become aware. I've said this before. It's like first step is always awareness. When you become aware of something, you can make a change to what you're doing, change situation, change circumstance. But the power of that is that you can realize, first of all, your family doesn't have dominion over you. And even more importantly, other people who don't even know you, who act like the family members, don't have dominion over you either. Then you become free again. And so your emotional balance, because it is, again, we said in the earlier show, it's not about emotional balance for dating. It's emotional balance while you're dating, meaning emotional balance you have in your life ongoing, regardless of what your dating status is. There's always an opportunity, unfortunately or fortunately, to recognize where we're being triggered by somebody else, whether it's in person or online or on the TV or wherever it is. And how we respond versus react is the key.
Oh, that introspection part. Yes,
Yeah.
it's really vital. And lots of people don't even know how to do it or know that they do it, but they don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
And it's such a fun thing for you and I both talk about how much we teach this to become aware. Oh, yeah, that sucks. What could I do about it? Is there a way I could change this circumstance, either how I'm reacting or not just being with people that are like that? It's such an empowering feeling. And I think because of often the way the world is acting, we feel kind of powerless. And I say, okay, you can't probably do anything about all that, but you could do something about your reaction. And you could do something about not worrying so much so you get better sleep. Or you could figure out a way, okay, if I can't drive as much because of the gas prices, what food could I make that would be more healthy for me? Or who could I Zoom with? So that you're now learning to take care of yourself and regulate yourself. That it, as you said, it takes practice. Everything takes patience and practice, that you're going to learn something new. But it is so valuable to learn this very specific thing about keeping your emotional balance, period, and how to get re-regulated when you do get out of whack, because we're going to get out of whack. It's part of being a human being. So we don't wake up someday, we're going to get out of whack. But what to do about it when you get out of whack, when you get triggered, that's a very popular word, you get dysregulated, what to do, how to make it so that you don't go through hours like that. How can you get back to feeling, I think I have some power. What could I choose to do different? Is it this, I'm going to think about something, or I'm going to go for a walk, like Barry said, or I'm going to do something different with this person, or I'm going to think differently about them. What could you do soon? That's part of the tools that you and I teach. What can we do soon to
Yeah.
start shifting this tsunami that wants to knock us all over the place?
There was this, I was thinking of a word that a friend of mine uses, actually several friends of mine use this term, because the thing about emotional balance sometimes feels like that people can't mess with you. They can't do anything to upset you and you can be immune. However, I want to tease it a little bit because the term they use, and it's a messy word, which is unfuckwithable. You know,
On
it's
what?
the unfuckwithable.
I
That's what they call
love
it.
it.
And I mean, I've heard it many times, but a friend of mine who I've become good friends with recently, she uses it a lot. And I understand the point of that, but at the same time, it's almost done as a battle cry versus actual real autonomy. Because the one thing about emotional balance is it's not against anything. Because being it's like having no fucks to give sort of thing. And I'm using explicit words, I know, but that's sort of what people use. And a friend of mine said that was, she has no more to give. It's like, I understand that. That's not necessarily emotional balance, though. It's the rebellion against the discord and upset and everything that's happening. But emotional balance means you can handle it regardless of what's going on without being angry or have to be fighting for it. And so this dance, this conversation, this work is really having a sense of being centered in everything that's going on versus being like having a big wall up around you.
I saw a podcast recently with this guy who specializes in working with people that have really problem anxiety. And they all come to him and say, I don't want to feel anxious anymore. And he goes, well, that's a problem. Because there are things you really need to feel anxious about. If a car swerves in front of you, I hope you feel anxious and put on your brake and figure out how to not get hit and not hit them. He said, but what are you going to do about it? And that's the thing I'm saying. What are you going to do about it? And how soon can you do something about it? Because I want to feel excited about meeting somebody. I want to get a vulnerable feeling eventually. I don't ever want that to go away. But yes, it's the balance. There we are with the balance of how do you not put up this big wall, but not be too vulnerable.
Right.
So, oh my gosh, if any of this has spoken to any of you who are watching, such a big, important subject in the world right now, I'd be so happy to talk to you. So my website is called theperfectcatch.com. And my tagline is first learn how to be one. So much of this conversation is about that. And then I promise you will attract somebody that's really the right person for you. You'll know how to vet them. Yeah. And on that website, I'll send you to the top, which is where you can get my book for free. It was my 10 years of a dating column that has 19 chapters of really interesting. People are telling me it's really helpful dating advice. It's been fun. And also you could go to the middle and sign up to talk with me free. Fill out the contact form, 8 brief questions about where you are and where you'd like to be. And then you'll have access to my online calendar to schedule a call or a Zoom conversation with me. And we'll get to the bottom of it, I promise. You can also join my mailing list and you'll get a repeat of this wonderful podcast every week in your mailbox. And you can also find out that my classes are going to start up again for the men and the women. And then if you go to the bottom, all my social media is there of Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter and YouTube with all the videos that I've done before I even met Barry. And now 6 years, we had an anniversary of us doing these wonderful podcasts together. You could so binge. And also you're welcome to send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would people reach you, Barry?
Similar to Christine, I have lots of stuff as well.
So
first of all, yes. So as I mentioned at the break, you can reach out to me by getting on my calendar by clicking on the button at the top of the homepage of my website, again, barryselby.com, where says let's have a chat, and that'll take you to my calendar. Fill out the form there, answer the questions, get on my calendar, we can have a conversation. If you just want to join my email list, you can go to the bottom of the homepage on my screen to put your name and email in there, and that gets you on my weekly emails that come out for this show replay. Those are things I'm working on, some new offers and new invitations I'm building out, and you want to be up to date what's going on. So definitely do that. If you want to find out more about your own readiness for a relationship, there's a button on the middle of the screen. There's eventually going to be 2, but right now there's only 1, which basically is the quiz you can take, which is the relationship readiness assessment. That's a self-diagnosis, self-review, self-contemplation about how ready you are for love and a relationship. So you can click on the button in the middle of the screen or go to barryselby.com/quiz, and that will take you right to it. That's a good place to start. But if you want to go deeper than that, I have another quiz, which is going to not yet on the homepage, but you have to go to barryselby.com/self-quiz, because it's a self-relationship assessment, meaning it is really a self-trust review of where you are in your life and what you're looking for. It covers 7 areas of your life and really is a self-reflection. If you're looking for emotional balance, frankly, do the second quiz. It's much more powerful. And basically, it's 7 areas which give you a bunch of questions in each one. You get a whole downloadable PDF, which gives you some tips and guidance, next steps, and also how you're doing, because basically you want to do the quiz to find out how you're doing. So that's one I recommend as well. In addition to that, you can find out my book, which is on the shelf behind me over there, which is 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. I was talking about that with somebody yesterday, frankly. But that book's been out for 13 years, even though some people think it came out last month, because I did a social media post of people like, congratulations on your book. And I went, it came out 13 years ago. But you can get your copy as well. It's on Amazon if you want to get it there. But if you want to find out more about it, go to my book page, which is barryselby.com/book, or it's through navigation. And you can click on the button at the top, which is a little audio track, which is a review of my book by two very smart sounding voices. It is AI generated, but it's very accurate. So if you want to get a sense of my book before you buy it, listen to the audio recording first, then you click on the buttons at the bottom of the screen, which gives you Amazon, or you can get the ebook from me directly and find out more about it there. You can find out about me on social media under my name, Barry Selby. So I'm on all the social media platforms. The Barry Selby on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Blue Sky, and on TikTok. And also on YouTube, where all the shows that we've done together, plus about another 1,000 other videos are. So tons of content on my YouTube channel as well. So you want to subscribe to my channel, get more up to date what's happening. I'm putting lots of short reels up there now. I'm actually doing book tours because of the book presumption that happened, where people thought I'd just done the book. It's like I'm going to start doing little snippets from my book about once a week that are just entertaining little clips. You can find out more about those. Go to my YouTube channel and watch them there. And if you want to find me on Instagram or Threads, it's The Real Barry Selby. And if you want to send me an email, you can send me one at barry@barryselby.com.
And we're here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, so you can watch us live. And if you put in a question, we'll be happy to answer it live on air. And if you'd like to watch us on repeat, you can watch us on Roku or YouTube. But they could take us with them, right? And just listen.
Absolutely. This show is a podcast. So not only is it a visible one, you can watch on YouTube and other platforms. You can listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms. So if you listen to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, our show is there. Look for Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. You can listen to 100 or 300 shows. There's so many shows that they listen to now. You can listen to all of them and share them with your friends.
And if you do hear something, you're like, oh my gosh, a friend needs to hear this, stop and share it, and then go back to listening. And we would love for you to like and review and subscribe. And we promise we'll be back next week with another interesting conversation about dating and relationships.
We'll see you then.
Bye.